If you could have only one mountain bike to rule them all, what would it be? If you happen to ask our tech team at BikeRadar, most of them would say a trail bike. Now, before you XC racers and enduro shredders get too upset, don't worry, we love those bikes too, but someone's got to stick up for the underdog. Before we get on with the show, don't forget to like, subscribe and click the little bell icon so you get notified every time we upload a new video. Sure, on the absolute gnarliest of trails, your 130mm trail bike might start to struggle, especially if you're going at speed. However, under a capable rider, we reckon a trail bike could probably muscle down gnarlier trails than you think. Although, we're sure you'll all let us know in the comments about the totally unrideable trail that only you and Chuck Norris could possibly do on 10 grand enduro bikes. You may need to deploy your skill set with a little more finesse and use some common sense, but don't be afraid to take your bike to places where it might not be the absolute best bike for the job. This counts for going uphill as well, as when it comes to the climbs, having a slightly chunkier tyre will help with grip when compared to a traditional XC bike. And while an XC race bike whippet might take the KOM, at least you're not trying to drag a downhill bike up a climb, right? Trail bikes have to tread a careful line between downhill slugger and something much more flighty. They need to be relatively light, so you don't wince every time the trail points up, and with just enough weight to keep the tyres stuck to the floor rather than pinging off every bump along the way. Although, burly bikes can offer buckets of composure and stability when the going gets tough. You only need to ride an e-bike to feel this effect. However, all the extra weight can be noticeable when you're chucking your bike around, or, as the kids seem to call it these days, when you're jibbing. And when it comes to the climbs, those few extra kilos certainly add to the misery. There's no doubt super light XC bikes have the edge when climbing, but they can feel sketchy when you're pointing back down the hill. So, if we wanted a true jack of all trades but master of none, it would have to be a trail bike. Affordability is one of the biggest sticking points when it comes to buying a new bike. So, if you're looking for a capable, do-it-all machine which offers competitive value for money, a trail bike could be the way to go. When we compared levels of kit in our Trail and Enduro Bike of the Year awards, the humble trail bike just edges the enduro bikes when it comes to affordability and value. This means, for a given price, the average trail bike has slightly higher tier components than a race-ready enduro bike. Why, we hear you ask? When it comes to the burlier end of the scale, stronger components which have extra adjustability cost more. Not only because there's more material, but also brands still want to keep the weight of these components competitive. This may also affect economies of scale. While enduro and downhill still get the limelight, we reckon it's the trail bike market which sells more, and thus benefits from larger production runs. If we look at the cross-country side of things, getting products that perform well and weigh so little clearly has a cost implication. The trail bike still needs high-performing parts, but they don't need to be flyweight light or heavyweight strong. The perfect place to keep costs competitive. You may think this is a tenuous point, but hear us out before casting judgment. Trail bikes are the easiest real-world mountain bikes to live with. Unless you're rocking a massive garage with a van to store and lug all your bikes about, your triple clamp, heavy-duty downhill bike is probably a pig to store. 5 bolts to remove a wheel, a non-twistable stem, and forks that can't rotate 90 degrees means your rig takes up much more space than a normal bike. Things do start to get easier with an enduro bike. However, bolted axles are far more common, while trail bikes tend to enjoy the ease of quick release through axles at both ends. Arguably, XC bikes win the storage wars, as they're so light to pick up and sling in or on your vehicle. But with feathery weight and energy efficiency at a premium, they take plenty of TLC to keep running as sweet as possible. Otherwise, you might not be able to score all those important KOMs. So on balance, we think the humble trail bike is just about the easiest proper mountain bike to live with. Quicker to dismantle and less time spent giving constant love and attention. Perfect. If there's one thing we've learnt from the BikeRadar YouTube comments, it's that some people do not like change. Top culprits include disc brakes on road bikes, e-bikes, and standards. While we have absolutely no problem with the first two, we can sympathise with the ever-increasing amount of standards within the world of mountain biking. Whether it's press this or super that, new standards are usually there to benefit a particular style of bike. For example, Super Boost allows even stronger and stiffer wheels, ideal on a downhill bike. However, with a wider hub comes the need for adjusted chain lines and all the faff that brings with it. While there's something to be said for having a properly up-to-date bike, trail bikes seem to avoid the worst of these varying standards and tend to stick to the more standard of standards, if that makes sense. So this kind of links back to point number 4, they're simply easier to live with. There we have it, 5 reasons the trail bike is the perfect mountain bike. We're sure there's many of you who will disagree, so let us know your thoughts in the comments. We're looking forward to reading them. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe and click that little bell icon so that every time we upload a new video, you get a notification. Goodbye!